So in this video, I will be acting as Director of Football in charge of bringing in players for Erik Ten Hag as Manchester United manager in the summer. Now I do know that the Manchester United board would probably not allow this level of flexibility, but I am making this video as though I have full control over United's transfer policy, so this is what I would do. But before I get into that, are you sick of paying extortionate prices for football shirts? Well, that's why you need Jersey Fever. I used to only be able to afford one or maybe two jerseys per year, but because Jersey Fever have new season jerseys available for less than £20 and retro jerseys for around £30, I now have a whole collection of great quality football shirts, and my favourite has to be my Manchester United 2003-2004 shirt with Ronaldo on the back. So if you like any of these, a link will be left in the description below, and if you use code ATLANTISFOOTBALL at checkout, you'll also get 5% off. So before we get into who Manchester United should sign under Ten Hag, we first need to look at who should be allowed to leave and the positions that need to be improved. So Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Harry Maguire have to go. Wan-Bissaka is nowhere near good enough in possession and would be a liability in Ten Hag's possession-oriented build-up, with his clunkiness and inability to move the ball quickly, just serving to invite the opposition's high pressure. Maguire as well is also guilty of holding on to the ball too long in possession, but the main reason I'm getting rid of him is because he's a defensive liability and is far too slow to play in a high defensive line. I think maybe United could get £20 million each for these two, but even then they would have to subsidise the wages most probably, so I can't see any team above mid-table in the Premier League wanting to pick them up, even for a cut-priced fee. I would also allow Axel Tuanzebe to leave, who has stagnated in the past few years and only has 1 year left on his contract. He could probably bring in around £10 million. Nemanja Matic I would allow to leave on a free just to get him off the wage bill, whilst I think Fred could bring in around £10 million and McTominay around £15 million because he has longer left on his contract and he's only in his mid-20s. But the most controversial of my outgoings is David De Gea, but unlike the others I've mentioned, it's not because I don't think he's good enough as a goalkeeper for Manchester United, it's that I don't think he's a right style of keeper for United, or more specifically for Ten Hag's United. I went into it in a lot more detail in the video that will be linked in the description, so I won't go into it in too much detail here, but Ten Hag's United need a keeper who is not only quick off his line, sweeping up in behind the high defensive line, but also good on the ball in terms of controlling the ball and finding forward passes under pressure, and playing long passes to switch the play, and these are some of De Gea's biggest weaknesses, with him often looking uncomfortable when a pass goes back to him, resulting to an aimless kick upfield. This would just lead to United giving the ball away without moving out of their defensive third, and so even though I do think it would be unpopular, the fans need to realise that just because a player is good enough in terms of quality for Manchester United doesn't mean he is necessarily the right player for that specific role in the system. De Gea's massive wages may be a problem, however, so I think the most realistic option for United is to at least get some of his wages off the books, as he does have a contract until next summer, and so loan him out to maybe someone like Roma, Juventus, or maybe even Newcastle being an option for the Spaniard as well. So after this would leave the squad before any transfers. Dean Henderson would be the one goalkeeper option, starting as a second choice but being given the opportunity to compete with the new goalkeeper signing, who I will come on to in just a bit. Shaw and Tellers would be the left back options, with Dalot at right back. Varane, Lindelof and Bailly would be the centre back options. In midfield I would recall James Garner, Dylan Levitt and Donny van der Beek from their loan spells, whilst also promoting Hannibal Mejbri, but I will still be looking for two starting central midfielders, with Fernandes being the starter in the advanced position ahead of the single pivot, where Garner is United's only real option at this point, with Levitt, Mejbri and Van der Beek alternative options in those advanced central midfield positions as well. Jadon Sancho would be the starter on the left side, with Elanga the alternative on the right, so I will be looking for a right winger to bring in, with Ronaldo starting as a centre forward. I would be looking to keep both Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford purely because United need to bring in so many starting players that I think in order to fully get the squad that I would want, I would literally have to sign 10 players, which isn't realistic in one transfer window, and Martial and Rashford's versatility across that front line is going to be useful, and I would also look to give Charlie McNeil some opportunities as United's third or fourth choice centre forward. I also think that Ten Hag could change Martial and Rashford's roles, and he may be the man to get them back into some form, so that's why I would look to keep those two, along with the fact, as I said previously, they are versatile enough to play multiple positions in that front line. So the positions to improve in the transfer market are goalkeeper, a left-sided centre-back, a right-back, a defensive midfielder, a more advanced central midfielder and a right winger. The reason why I'm not targeting a centre forward is because other than Harry Kane, who'd cost over £100 million most likely, and is also approaching his 30s now, Lewandowski and Benzema, who are in their mid-30s and might not even want to join United at this point, there aren't too many great options for United to go for who would first be available and second be cost effective, as United need at least 4 other players in this window, so can't blow the majority of the budget on improving just one position. So let's start off with the right back, and my first choice option would be Ajax's new Mazraoui, who would be used to Ten Hag's system and requirements of his right back straight away, having been the right back in Ten Hag's 4-3-3 system for the last few years. I did do a full segment in my How Ten Hag Would Set Up Manchester United video directly about the use of Mazraoui at Ajax as an inverted right back, so I won't go over that too much in this video, but it is obvious why Mazraoui would be my first choice, as not only would he suit the role from a tactical point of view, but he also has the on the ball qualities to be a top level right back, being pretty solid defensively as well, only being 24 years old and of course being available on a free at the end of the season. However, with Barcelona and Bayern Munich reportedly interested in him, I do think it's unlikely that United, particularly without Champions League football, will be able to land the Moroccan, and so my second choice but more realistic option at right back is Bayer Leverkusen's Jeremy Frimpong. Frimpong is 21 years old and was signed by Leverkusen from Celtic for a fee in the region of £11.5 million. He has a contract until 2025, so I reckon he would cost United between £25 and £30 million, which is more than Mazraoui would cost given his contract situation, but if Mazraoui had a contract at Ajax until 2025, he would likely cost in excess of £30 million as well. Frimpong and Mazraoui are slightly different styles of right back, however, whilst Mazraoui is tall, lanky, powerful and capable of playing as a central midfielder because of his technical and passing ability, Frimpong is much more of a winger-like fullback, who rather than drifting infield into central positions, tends to be better holding his width and making overlapping runs down the flank. Now this may seem like a contradiction to what I said in that previous video, as what I outlined is needed from a Ten Hag fullback, which was that the player needs to be able to play almost as a central midfielder at times, or have the forward passing ability to hold a deeper position in possession. However, whilst Frimpong doesn't have these qualities just yet, I do think that he can be coached quite quickly into playing either of these roles. There aren't many fullbacks in world football who have this ability to play as an inverted fullback, and Mazraoui is one of the few, so unless United are going to go out and try to get Cancelo, Trent Alexander-Arnold or Joshua Kimmich, they are going to have to develop a player for that role. And the reason I would go for Frimpong is because he has the ball carrying ability, chance creating and defensive ability as well to become a world class fullback if he can then develop these other attributes that I have spoken about. Frimpong is a very good dribbler, able to use his low centre of gravity, close ball control and acceleration to shift his body quickly before driving past the opposition player, which is going to be valuable for Ten Hag's side when looking to progress the ball from deep positions past the opposition's press, as Frimpong, unlike Wan-Bissaka currently, can use his winger-like ability to drive the ball up the pitch, allowing United to transition the attack quickly, break through the press and exploit the space in behind the pressing lines, and we'll see this ability later on when we look at his FB ref report. Also, I think having Frimpong and Dalla will give United variety in that right back position. If Ten Hag wants to use a deeper or inverted right back, then Dalla could be the better option, whereas if he wants a right back who can hold his width a lot more and make overlapping runs forward into the final third, then Frimpong would be the better option for this particular role. I could see Frimpong working well down the right flank, maybe with someone like Jadon Sancho or a new signing like Rafinha or Antony, overlapping and dragging players away from the right winger, giving them space to either drift inside or find his overlapping runs, and when Frimpong gets into crossing positions, he tends to have pretty good delivery, excelling when playing low crosses across the box or cutting the ball back from the byline, which at the present time is something that United don't really have from any of their fullbacks to this degree. He's also a fairly good one-on-one defender as well, completing 1.4 tackles per 90 in the Bundesliga this season, whilst only being dribbled past 0.5 times per 90, giving him an impressive tackle success rate of 73.7%. He does need to improve his positioning, but so do most young fullbacks, so I don't see that being a major issue, and I do think that particularly in a system and style of play like Ten Hag's, it is vital that the fullbacks technically are very good and can aid the side either by progressing the ball forward or creating chances in the final third. And when we look at his FB ref report, we can see that Frimpong excels at both of these. Over the past 365 days, when compared against every other fullback in Europe's top 5 leagues, Frimpong has created 0.16 expected assists per 90, ranking in the 89th percentile. He also sits in the 98th percentile for progressive carries and the 96th percentile for dribbles completed, showing that Frimpong is one of the best fullbacks in the world at advancing the play forward with the ball at his feet. He sits in only the 14th percentile for progressive passes, showing that the young Dutchman is far more of a ball carrier than a passer, whereas Dalot ranks in the 92nd percentile for progressive passes, the 80th for progressive carries and the 64th for dribbles, which shows the difference in styles and attributes between the two right backs. I think having Frimpong and Dalot as the right backs in the side would not only drastically improve United in possession down the right side, whoever plays, but also give United two potentially world-class right backs who are both 23 or younger. When it comes to the centre-back position, I do think that under Ten Hag, Varane and Lindelof would make quite a good centre-back partnership, as both players are good in possession, capable of playing in a high defensive line, whilst also being good one-on-one defenders as well. However, as I said previously, I would be trying to get rid of Maguire, and Bailly is far too injury-prone to be relied on as the first-choice backup, and so I would be looking to bring in a starting centre-back who could improve United, likely partnering Varane most of the time with Lindelof as the third choice. I do think that Antonio Rudiger, whose contract at Stamford Bridge is up at the end of the season, would be the perfect choice. However, I think with the likes of Barcelona, Bayern Munich and Real Madrid interested in him, it's going to be hard to convince him to make the switch to Old Trafford, particularly without Champions League football. Although, after thinking about an alternative option for a while, I think I may have identified a player who could be a better option, particularly in the long term. And that player is former Chelsea man and current AC Milan centre-back Fikayo Tomori. Tomori is 24-25 in December, and I would say that over the past year or so, he has been by far England's best centre-back, despite Gareth Southgate still deciding to pick Tyrone Mings and Harry Maguire over him. He has a contract at the San Siro until 2025 and was signed from Chelsea for around £25 million, and so I reckon that he'd cost United around £50 million to sign. However, despite the expensive fee, I think this could be one of the best transfers that United make this decade. From a defensive point of view, Tomori is perfect for Ten Hag's system. He's absolutely rapid, a fantastic one-on-one defender, standing his ground before waiting for the perfect moment to either go to ground and wrap his leg around the ball, or moving quickly to put in a strong standing tackle to win the ball back. He's a very aggressive, strong front foot defender, able to jump out of the defensive line to intercept a pass into the forward, or use his strength to bully the player with the ball. Whereas Lindelof and Maguire are fairly standoff and passive in their defensive approach, Tomori is the complete opposite, reminding me of players like Sergio Ramos, Antonio Rudiger or Christian Romero in terms of being very proactive in moving towards the player with the ball rather than waiting for them to come to him. I think this type of centre-back would work very well with either Varane or Lindelof, who can play the role of a covering centre-back, sitting behind and looking to anticipate passes in behind the back line, whilst Tomori acts as a guard dog, moving out to dominate the space in front of the back line. I can't think of many centre-backs under the age of 25 who are better than Tomori at this current point in time, as he's criminally underrated, particularly by the English media, and I genuinely think that in the next 2 seasons, he has the ability to move into that world-class bracket and play for any of the super clubs across Europe. And so if United were to sign him, they would potentially have a world-class player nailed down in their backline for the next 5 or 6 years at least, and potentially for the rest of the decade as well. His FBref report shows how good he is, as he ranks in the 89th percentile for pressures, the 84th for tackles, the 73rd for interceptions, and the 87th for blocks, showing that when it comes to these front foot defensive actions, Tomori ranks extremely highly. Now, despite him being decent on the ball, this is a part of his game that he will need to improve under Ten Hag. As you can see, he's ranking quite low for metrics like progressive passes and progressive carries, but I think that given how good Tomori is defensively, how he suits Ten Hag's defensive system perfectly, and how young he is for a centre-back, I think it's still more than worth signing him, as without doubt he will improve his on-the-ball attributes under Ten Hag. Also, if you do like the look of these phone cases, I'll leave the link in the description below. Anything you buy will help support the channel. My personal favourite is the Ronaldo Sue celebration one, even though I do also like the Fergie one as well. But be sure to go over to the site linked in the description. They've got a lot of other designs as well, and if you use code AF at checkout, you should get 25% off as well. as well. The goalkeeper position, United do have a dilemma. I made a whole video analysing why I don't think David De Gea can be Ten Hag's #1 goalkeeper. So if you want to see a detailed analysis of exactly why I would be looking to replace De Gea, that video will be linked below. So United do have Dean Henderson, and I do think that the former Sheffield United loanee should be given a chance next season. Henderson is a lot more suited to the ball-playing sweeper-keeper role than De Gea is, and Henderson is much better when coming outside of his box, and when I compare him, De Gea and another Premier League keeper as well, you'll be able to see this numerically. But Henderson is also more dominant in aerial situations, able to come out and claim crosses a lot more often than De Gea, which, as I said in that De Gea analysis video, is an underrated attribute for a keeper, as having a keeper who can come and claim crosses takes the pressure off your side and will result in less aerial and scrappy chances in the box that you will face. Henderson is a lot better with his feet than De Gea also, being a better short and long passer, and this was probably a key factor behind Ten Hag's apparent interest in bringing Henderson to Ajax in January. However, the question behind Henderson is more about his shot stopping and consistency, as without doubt De Gea is the better shot stopper of the two, and Henderson has been pretty error prone whenever he's had his opportunities at Manchester United, with mistakes against AC Milan and Sheffield United, just two that come to mind. And so I think that United should replace David De Gea, whose contract does expire at the end of the season, with a goalkeeper who is going to be good enough to challenge Henderson for that #1 spot, and the player I would go for would be Brighton's Spanish keeper Robert Sanchez. Sanchez is just 24 years old and stands at 6'6", but he is phenomenal with his feet. A good example was here against Manchester City, when City were looking to initiate a high press. If David De Gea was in this situation more often than not, it would have resulted in a long ball forward. However, Sanchez has the ability to exchange passes around the box before playing a press-splitting pass out to Lallana on the left side. Another example is here, as he's able to switch play to Dan Burn, taking 3 City pressing players out of the game in the process. He's also a very good long passer as well, as here he's able to play a long driven pass from his own box, finding Danny Welbeck's run in behind the Palace backline, or here when he plays a sideways drop kick to ping the ball out to Mulder on the right flank. This ball playing ability is superior to both De Gea and Henderson and would drastically improve United's ability to play out of the opposition's press and work the ball up the pitch with speed. But Sanchez also has the traditional goalkeeper qualities to become a top level keeper, and we can see this when we compare him statistically against De Gea and Henderson. I have used Henderson's metrics from the past 2 seasons at Manchester United because he obviously has played significantly less games than the other two. So here we see in terms of shot stopping alone, De Gea is better than the other two, recording a post shot XG minus goals allowed rate of 0.36 per 90 compared to Sanchez's 0.06 and Henderson's 0.02. However, you do have to factor in that Sanchez is playing in front of a significantly better defence at Brighton than De Gea is at Manchester United. So this metric is slightly skewed, but nevertheless shows that not only is De Gea an outstanding shot stopper, but Sanchez is pretty good as well, overperforming in this area as well. Sanchez, however, plays a lot more passes than De Gea, and just from the eye test alone we can see that both him and Henderson are significantly better than De Gea in this department. Sanchez also outperforms both United keepers when it comes to cross collection, collecting 12.3% of crosses, with Henderson further down at 8.6%, and De Gea significantly lower with just 3%, showing where Sanchez would bring improvement. But the big metric comes at the end, with Sanchez and Henderson both recording more than 1 action outside the penalty area per 90, whereas De Gea records just 0.21 per 90, which is actually the second worst in the league out of 24 keepers for this metric, whereas Robert Sanchez is 5th best in the league this season. So overall, whilst De Gea is still the better shot stopper, both Henderson and Sanchez are better at sweeping outside of the box, claiming crosses, and with their feet in terms of their long and short passes, with Sanchez, in my opinion, also being better than Henderson overall when it comes to shot stopping, claiming crosses, and with his feet. And so I would sign Sanchez in the summer. He'd probably cost around 30 to 35 million and allow Henderson and Sanchez to compete for that #1 spot. But if Henderson did not want to compete and wanted guaranteed game time, then I would look to sell him, as I think Sanchez overall is a better keeper than Henderson, and the Spaniard has the potential to be world class. And so if United could land him now, they would have nailed down a top level keeper most likely for the next 5 or 6 years at least, and maybe for the next decade. So Frimpong, Tomori and Sanchez are the first 3 players I've identified for United to sign. As this video is already pretty long, I will be analysing the defensive midfielder, central midfielder and right winger, and maybe another potential signing as well in the second part, which should be out in the next few days. So if you enjoyed the video, remember to give the video a like, subscribe to the channel and click the bell as well, and put your thoughts in the comment section below, and check out the description for more videos as well.